You're not struggling because you failed. You're struggling because the system quietly changed. Since 2020, rent is up over 40%, groceries are up 30%, health insurance premiums are up 25%, and wages haven't even kept pace with inflation. More than 60% of Americans can't afford a $500 emergency, 1 in 3 workers' lives paycheck to paycheck, and for the first time in U.S. history, a full-time job no longer guarantees housing, healthcare, or stability. This isn't a recession. This is a structural breakdown. And if you feel exhausted, anxious, and stuck no matter how hard you work, you're not imagining it. In this video, I'm breaking down the harsh reality of living in America in 2025, starting with the things no one in power wants you to connect and why it's getting worse, not better. Hard work no longer leads to stability, and that breaks everything. This might be the most psychologically devastating shift in America today. The quiet realization that hard work no longer guarantees stability, let alone success. For generations, the promise was simple. You show up, you grind, you sacrifice, and eventually you get a life that feels secure. A home, a family, some breathing room. But in 2025, that social contract is shattered, and people can feel it in their nervous systems. Productivity in the U.S. has increased by over 60% since the late 1970s, yet wages have barely moved when adjusted for inflation. That means workers are producing more value than ever while receiving a smaller slice of it. And this isn't just blue-collar labor. White-collar professionals are getting crushed too. College graduates are underemployed at the highest rate in decades. Mid-career workers are being laid off en masse and replaced with automation or contract labor. Older workers are discarded before they can retire, and younger workers are told to pay their dues indefinitely. The result? A society where effort feels disconnected from outcome. You can do everything right, get educated, avoid debt where possible, work overtime, delay gratification, and still end up one emergency away from collapse. That disconnect erodes motivation, trust, and long-term planning. Why save for retirement if you don't believe the system will be there? Why have kids if you can't guarantee housing or health care? Why invest emotionally in a career that can erase you with an algorithmic email? This is why burnout is everywhere. This is why people are emotionally disengaging from work, from institutions, even from each other. When effort stops being rewarded, people don't just get tired, they get disillusioned. And disillusionment is dangerous, because it breeds apathy, anger, and withdrawal. Societies don't collapse only from poverty. They collapse when people stop believing that playing by the rules matters. America is flirting with that edge right now, and the scariest part is how normalized it's become. We've been told to accept instability as adulthood, anxiety as ambition, and exhaustion as character. That's not resilience, that's survival conditioning. You want to know what no one's talking about? Elder poverty is exploding, and the scariest part is, it's silent. It's not dramatic. It's not viral. It's just millions of older Americans quietly starving, quietly choosing between medication and rent, quietly dying in isolation. According to the National Council on Aging, nearly 1 in 3 seniors is economically insecure, living on less than $27,000 a year, while housing costs, utilities, and medical bills have skyrocketed. You think Social Security is going to save them? The average check in 2025 is $1,107 per month. That doesn't even cover a studio apartment in most cities. And don't even start on Medicare. Between deductibles, co-pays, and what's not covered, seniors are drowning in bills. What's worse, over 15 million elderly Americans live alone, and that number is rising fast. There's an epidemic of loneliness that's just as deadly as diabetes or heart disease. And the reason you haven't heard more about this? Because we've become a culture that discards the elderly once they stop producing. We don't build multi-generational homes. We don't provide support networks. We warehouse our seniors in underfunded nursing homes or leave them to rot in rentals they can no longer afford. And with pensions disappearing and the gig economy becoming the norm, guess what? You're next. The people working DoorDash at 65, that's your future. The grandma you see behind the Walmart register at 7 a.m., She's not staying busy, she's paying rent. And this isn't just sad, it's unsustainable. We're headed toward a demographic cliff where millions will age into poverty with no safety net. The American dream told us we work hard, we retire in peace. But now retirement just means working until your body gives out. That's the real American nightmare. Your paycheck is shrinking, even if it's getting bigger. This one is going to blow your mind because it's not obvious at first. You might think you're doing okay because your salary has gone up. You're making $20 an hour instead of $15. You got a promotion. Maybe you broke into the mythical six-figure club. But here's the cold truth. Your real purchasing power is going down, not up. Adjusted for inflation, today's $100,000 salary buys you the same lifestyle as about $56,000 in the year 2000. Let that sit. And if you're making $50K today, that's like $28K 25 years ago. It's not just groceries and gas either. It's housing, insurance, childcare, phone plans, even basic clothes. The Consumer Price Index shows rent is up over 30% since 2020, but wages barely 13%. That gap is where the struggle lives. And don't forget the stealth inflation. You know, the $7 boxes of cereal that used to be $3.50, but now come with 25% less product. They call it shrinkflation, but it's corporate theft dressed up as logistics. Oh, and by the way, 401k matches are shrinking, bonuses are disappearing, and employer health plans cover less than they used to. So even if your gross pay is higher, your net benefit is worse. We're working more hours, doing more jobs, and still getting less. And corporations? They're fine. The S&P 500 posted over $1.5 trillion in profits last year. But workers? We're fighting over breadcrumbs. That raise you got? It's not a reward, it's a pacifier. It keeps you quiet while the cost of living eats away your life. This is the illusion of progress in America. More money on paper, less freedom in real life. So when you wonder why your bank account doesn't reflect all your hard work, it's not your fault. The system is designed that way. The childcare trap is destroying American families. If you think having kids is just a choice, you're not paying attention to how America punishes people for doing it. In 2025, the average cost of full-time childcare in the U.S. is now $15,417 per child, per year. That's more than the in-state tuition at many public universities. And if you've got 2 kids under 5, you're easily shelling out over $2,500 a month, more than most people's rent. And this isn't for luxury services. This is for bare-bones daycare with overworked staff, wait lists that stretch for months, and constant closures from staffing shortages. According to the U.S. Department of Labor, over 50% of Americans now live in childcare deserts, areas where there are more than 3 children for every licensed childcare slot. It's gotten so bad that millions of women have had to leave the workforce entirely because childcare eats their entire paycheck. And let's not forget, childcare workers, the people watching your kids while you work, are making $14 to $17 an hour on average, with no benefits, no support, and constant burnout. It's a system so broken it defies logic. Working parents can't afford care, providers can't afford to operate, and the government refuses to fix it. You'd think a country that claims to value family would at least support families trying to survive. But no. The U.S. spends less on childcare support as a percentage of GDP than 37 out of 38 developed nations. That's right, we rank second to last among OECD countries. So what happens? Parents burn out, kids get inconsistent care, and the economy loses billions in productivity. And the solution politicians keep offering? Tax credits. Great, that'll come next April. What are you supposed to do about next Monday? Let's stop pretending this is normal. Having a child shouldn't be a financial death sentence. And yet, in America, it is. This is why people aren't having kids. Not because they don't want them, but because they literally cannot afford to raise them. And no amount of moral lectures is going to change that reality. If we don't fix childcare, we're not just looking at a family crisis. We're staring down a societal collapse where an entire generation delays or abandons parenthood because survival comes first. Public infrastructure is literally rotting beneath your feet. America is falling apart, literally crumbling. And it's not just some political talking point. It's the pothole that cracked your axle last week. It's the bridge that suddenly collapsed in Baltimore. It's the water main break that shut down your street. And it's worse than you think. According to the American Society of Civil Engineers, the U.S. gets a C grade on its infrastructure, meaning roads, bridges, power grids, water systems, rail lines, airports, everything we depend on just to exist, are at risk of catastrophic failure. Over 220,000 U.S. bridges are structurally deficient. That's nearly 1 in 3. Our water pipes? Most were installed before 1970 and are leaking 6 billion gallons of treated water every day. And our electrical grid? Fragile and aging. That's why rolling blackouts, downed lines, and transformer fires are becoming more common, especially in states with extreme weather like Texas and California. In 2021, over 60% of America's power outages were caused by infrastructure failures. Not storms, not sabotage, just old, broken systems. And yet, what do? We spend less per capita on infrastructure than almost every other developed country, while shoveling billions into military spending and corporate tax breaks. Meanwhile, working Americans sit in 42 hours of traffic per year, breathe air poisoned by lead pipes and diesel fumes, and pay higher bills because broken infrastructure makes everything less efficient. You ever wonder why your water bill is so high in a city with constant boil advisories? Or why your internet barely works in 2025 even though we supposedly live in the tech capital of the world? Because our priorities are backwards. Because maintenance isn't sexy. Because decay is silent until it kills someone. And when it does, we act shocked. But this isn't shocking. This is what decades of neglect, deferral, and privatization look like. We sold off public goods to the lowest bidder, patched up systems with duct tape, and hoped no one would notice. Well, people notice now. When a bridge collapses under their car or a blackout wipes out their insulin supply. And unless we stop pretending this is fine, the next collapse might not be metaphorical. It might be deadly. Renting in America is a scam. It's a carefully engineered trap designed to extract every last dollar from working people while offering nothing in return. In 2025, the national median rent for a one-bedroom apartment is over $1,600 a month. And in cities like New York or San Francisco, it's more than double that. But here's the kicker. Wages have not kept pace. Rents have grown 4 times faster than income since 1980. You used to be told, never spend more than 30% of your income on rent. Now, more than half of all renters spend over 40%, and nearly 1/3 are severely cost-burdened, spending over 50%. That means people are skipping meals, rationing insulin, delaying dental care, just to keep a roof over their heads. And landlords? They've never had it better. Corporate landlords now own over 25% of all single-family rentals. Not mom-and-pop owners, but massive hedge funds like Blackstone and Invitation Homes, who use software to algorithmically raise your rent every year, even if your apartment hasn't been touched since the Reagan administration. You've got broken appliances, mold in the ceiling, and roaches that pay less than you do. And still, the rent goes up. And here's where it gets ugly. In many states, there's no cap on how much a landlord can raise your rent, and no legal requirement to fix basic safety issues unless you can afford to sue. You ever try to fight your landlord in court when you're working 2 jobs just to pay him? Good luck. Meanwhile, zoning laws and NIMBYism have strangled housing supply. So even when new apartments are built, they're luxury units with $4,000 price tags that sit half empty while people sleep in cars. And God forbid you get evicted, because one eviction on your record is like a scarlet letter that follows you forever. Try getting approved anywhere else. You can't. And that's the point. The system isn't broken. It's functioning exactly as intended, to make renters so desperate they'll accept anything. This isn't just about housing. It's about control. It's about a nation that's turned shelter into a subscription service with no cancellation option, and it's bleeding people dry. You're being punished for being poor, and that's by design. You know what no one talks about enough? In America, being poor is literally more expensive than being rich. Not just metaphorically, not just emotionally, mathematically. You get charged more for everything. For having bad credit, for missing a payment, for not being able to afford things up front. Let's start with banking. If you're living paycheck to paycheck and you accidentally overdraft your account, boom, $35 fee per transaction, sometimes multiple times in one day. Now you're negative, so any money you deposit gets eaten by fees, and you're stuck in a loop. And don't even try to get a loan. If your credit score isn't sparkling, you'll get slammed with 28% interest on a used car loan, while the guy with good credit gets 3%. So the person who can't afford a car pays 10x more over time just to get to work. Rent-to-own furniture, payday loans, check cashing joints, those aren't services. They're legalized financial traps that feed off desperation. Even utilities do this. Poor families without access to efficient housing pay hundreds more per year in electricity because their homes leak energy. Same with food. No car, no problem. Just shop at the overpriced gas station on the corner and pay double for the same gallon of milk. And medical bills? Don't get me started. If you don't have insurance, or even if you do, but it's the crummy kind, you get charged 10x more than what the insurance companies pay hospitals. According to the Kaiser Family Foundation, medical debt is now the one cause of personal bankruptcy in America. You think the system doesn't know this? Of course it does. It's built on it. Late fees, penalty APRs, reconnection charges, eviction court fees, it's all a poverty tax. You get penalized for not having money, then punished again for trying to survive. And here's the dark irony. Most of the companies bleeding you dry, they're the same ones getting massive tax breaks and subsidies from your government, paid for by your taxes. So not only are you getting robbed blind, you're funding the robbery. This isn't failure, this is predatory design. The American system is rigged to make sure the poor stay poor and the rich get richer off the interest, the fees, the penalties, and the broken backs of people just trying to hang on. The mental health crisis isn't just real, it's engineered. America is in the middle of a full-blown mental health collapse, and it's not just some accidental side effect of modern life. It's being actively created by a system that drives people into burnout, stress, and anxiety, and then profits off the aftermath. Right now, over 42% of Americans report symptoms of anxiety or depression, according to the CDC. Suicide rates are at a 50-year high, with men under 40 and women over 60 being the fastest-growing groups. Antidepressant use has doubled since 2010, and mental health ER visits among children are up over 300% in the last decade. And here's what's wild. The US spends more per capita on mental health than almost any other country, yet outcomes keep getting worse. Why? Because we're not treating the disease, we're medicating the symptoms while feeding the source. Think about it. We work longer hours than almost every other industrialized country. We get no guaranteed paid leave, no universal health care, and no job security. We're glued to screens engineered to trigger dopamine spikes and then emotional crashes. We live in a social media war zone of fake success, political rage, and non-stop doom scrolling. And when we do try to get help, therapy costs $150 a session if you can even find someone. Many insurance plans, one if they cover mental health at all, have weeks-long wait lists. And don't forget, 1/3 of US counties have no mental health professionals at all. It's a wasteland. And Big Pharma? They love it. The US is 5% of the world's population but consumes 75% of all prescription drugs. And every commercial break on TV is another ad telling you to ask your doctor about this pill or that patch. Side effects include everything from nausea to death. It's madness, but it's also profit. A stressed out, overworked, fearful population is easy to sell to. It's easier to manage. And it's easier to keep from asking real questions about the systems breaking their minds in the first place. The truth is, mental health in America isn't just neglected. It's exploited. It's a product, a business model. And the worse you feel, the more they make. You don't own your time anymore. And that's the ultimate theft. You will spend the majority of your adult life working just to exist, and you'll be told to feel grateful for it. Let that sit. The average American now works 47 hours a week, not including unpaid overtime, commuting, gig work, or side hustles. That's over 2,500 hours a year. And that doesn't even count the mental load you carry home. Emails, group chats, late night work stress, waking up at 3 a.m. because you forgot to submit something. We live in a country where over 60% of workers check email during weekends, where vacation means answering Slack messages from a beach, and where millions of people retire only to take a job at Walmart or Instacart just to survive. You're not living. You're managing a workload to delay drowning. And it's not just your job stealing your time. Every system in America is designed to devour it. Need healthcare? Enjoy navigating a bureaucratic maze of phone calls, prior authorizations, bills you don't understand, and hours on hold. Need childcare? Spend months on a wait list and 10+ hours a week driving across town. Got student loans? There's paperwork for that. Need food? Get in line, check coupons, track prices. We are a nation addicted to grind culture, where your time has value only if it makes money for someone else. Rest is laziness. Leisure is luxury. Idleness is sin. And so people are taught to monetize everything. Turn hobbies into side gigs. Monetize your personality. Build a brand. Hustle 24/7. But here's the trap. You never get ahead. No matter how hard you work, your bills grow faster. Your rent goes up. Your health gets worse. Your savings shrink. And the time you thought you were earning back, you don't. Because America doesn't pay you in freedom. It pays you just enough to keep going. And it convinces you that if you're not doing well, it's your fault. That you didn't hustle hard enough. That you didn't want it badly enough. But the truth is, we are collectively being robbed of our lives, hour by hour, day by day. A society that commodifies every waking second isn't efficient. It's inhumane. Because when you're dying at 65 with a chest full of regret and a drawer full of W-2s, you'll realize what they really stole wasn't your money. It was your time. The American system no longer exists to serve people. It exists to extract from them. The American system has fundamentally changed its purpose. It no longer exists to support citizens. It exists to extract value from them at every stage of life. From the moment you're born, you're a revenue stream. Education becomes debt. Healthcare becomes a subscription with penalties. Housing becomes a rent funnel. Transportation becomes financing. Employment becomes temporary and disposable. Even death is monetized through end-of-life care, funerals, probate fees, and inheritance taxes. Nothing is designed to be owned outright anymore. Everything is recurring, conditional, and fragile. And the genius of the system is that it doesn't feel like oppression at first. It feels like inconvenience. A fee here, a rate increase there, a policy change you don't quite understand. Until one day you look around and realize you're working not to build a life, but to service systems, banks, insurers, landlords, platforms, lenders, and corporations that record profits while you tread water. Meanwhile, public institutions that once balanced this extraction, unions, pensions, affordable education, public housing, antitrust enforcement, have been systematically weakened or dismantled. What replaced them wasn't freedom, it was privatization. And privatization doesn't ask what people need, it asks what the market will tolerate. This is why everything feels transactional now. Why loyalty is gone. Why trust is gone. Why people feel disposable. The system doesn't collapse overnight. It hollows out slowly until the majority of people are trapped maintaining it without benefiting from it. And here's the part most people haven't fully named yet. You can feel this truth even if you can't articulate it. That's why anxiety is so widespread. That's why anger is everywhere. That's why people are checking out, downsizing, opting out, or quietly planning exits. Geographic, economic, emotional. The American dream didn't just die. It was financialized, sliced into monthly payments, and sold back to the very people it once promised to lift. And until that extraction model changes, no amount of optimism, hustle culture, or personal responsibility rhetoric will fix what people are experiencing. Because the problem isn't individual failure. It's a system that no longer works for the many, only the few. And if you're still here, let me say this. You're not alone. Millions of people are waking up every day feeling like something is deeply wrong, but they can't quite explain it. now you can. Because what we're living through isn't just bad luck or a rough patch. It's a system that's been rigged to extract everything from you while blaming you for not keeping up. But the first step in changing anything is naming it. So if any part of this hit you, drop a comment and tell me what you're seeing in your life right now. Your rent, your job, your health bills, whatever. Because if enough people speak up, we stop feeling isolated. And we start realizing we're part of a much bigger story. Make sure to subscribe if you want more breakdowns like this. Honest, raw, data-backed. Because we're just getting started. Stay sharp, stay loud, and don't let anyone gaslight you into thinking this is normal.